Welcome back to my channel, Little Bob's Garage. I unfortunately get to do a do-over. This video is another video on a broken rear coil on my Mercedes Benz ML350. So if you remember, I did the previous video, replaced one side, put a U spring in. That one didn't break, but the other spring on the other side didn't. So a lot of lessons learned from this. So I'm going to go through it. I'm going to go through a little bit more detail this time, tell you about some of the differences. So first of all, I've got, you can see what has happened here. You can see these two coils right there are touching. And I noticed that when I was doing the brakes. I said, oh shit. But it hadn't actually separated. But you're probably not going to be able to see. But on the back side, right there, of the coil, you can see the crack. So, same problem here. What's happened? And if you look at that, right there, I think, if you look at that, it's the powder coating's flaked off. So should have done this in the first place. The reason these are failing is rust. The powder coat, see right there? Another one right there as well. The powder coat, rust gets underneath, probably a stone pit or something, gets underneath the powder coat and gets a rust coating on the outside of the coil spring. It creates just stress concentrations and the coil breaks. So I'm going to go through this again. You know, some of the other things I've done is make myself more comfortable. Last time I did this, got my helper again today. Last time I did this, you know, I was rushing, it was a hot day. Made myself comfortable, got a chair to sit on. I got the car a whole lot higher on jack stands here so that I can have plenty of room. I was basically on my knees all the time. Plenty of lighting, and I'm going to go through with, like I said, in a little bit more detail. I'm also I got some feedback from the last time that when I did this, I took the caliper off. And this video is used by some people for information who had similar problems. And what they did was they left the brake caliper on and they disconnected. There's a plastic clip in here that holds all these lines in. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to pull all these lines away from this top arm here, and I'm going to try to do what the other person did, just for information. Try to take the spring out without disconnecting the brake. So to do that, I'm going to make sure I've got the electrical connections disconnected. So we've got parking brake here. I think that is a speed sensor. So that probably is not bolted in. Oh, it is. And we've got, sorry about the jiggling. And on this side, that's it, just those two. The other side has got the brake wear indicator. And the other side's also got a potentiometer on the lower A arm that's got, that's used for proportioning the brakes, depending on load. So none of that's on this side, so this is the easier side. I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to show a little bit of details. I'll start at the beginning and show some of the other little details, like things like the types of nuts used. Like I think I ran into a few problems here with not having I think I used a Torx instead of an Allen, so I'm going to clean those up, make sure everybody knows what's going on there. But I'll walk through step by step on this, and we'll do the same thing all over again. So, one of the advantages of this is, I guess, I get to share what I learned from doing the last time, what other people have learned from using this video as well. So I'll pass that same information on. I hate doing things twice, but I guess you'll learn from my mistakes. You know, if you're in the Northeast area, you know, I see lots of on Mercedes forums about broken rear springs. If you're in the Northeast, if you got a broken spring, lessons learned, change them both out for new. The other one hasn't failed. It's a used one, but you need to buy more time because corrosion is the failure mechanism for these not overloading. Anyhow, we'll take you through the details of taking this apart. And like I said, I'll stop and pause and talk every now and then again. And the same thing, put in the comments section if you want more detail, less detail, let me know. Thanks. Okay, so I'm back. So probably took off more than I needed to. So this arm is going to likely stay up. I removed this clip here, and you just have to get in behind and squeeze the back so it doesn't break. One here, one at the upper end. Disconnected the parking brake and left that loose. Don't really think you need to do stuff, but there's a fair bit of movement there. So this arm here will be completely disconnected. So should be fine for that. You know, the brake hub assembly will go down. So this, if I need to, I'll disconnect the speed sensor. Over here, I've disconnected the brake line from this arm. Now, if I recall, I think I might have taken the bolt out of this as well. I can't remember. I knew this one came all the way out. That one, don't know if it did or not. But anyhow, to get it, you get two clips. A little hard to see. One, let's see, get you in close. This one here, and you can see the back side, little tab right there. So you have to push that up from the back side. So I hit a mirror just so I could see clearly, make sure I don't break anything. That's one thing I can't stand is breaking retaining clips. So just push that and then separate it. See, close this way, it opens, and then a similar one, but it's on the bottom. This one here actually needs to be put back in, and that's it. So the brake line now is loose. It's connected up at the top to the hard line. So there's a bit there. So we'll see. That doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot of flex in this line, but we'll try it. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bottom strut or shock, take the bottom bolt off. I'm going to take the tie rod link, loosen it. So for that, you have to insert, where is it, up here? You have to insert a hex. If you can see that all right. Yeah, there is it better. You have to insert a hex in the inside and then a wrench on the outside to keep the whole thing from spinning. And then the last two, sorry about the squeaks of the chair, last two of these two bolts. I got everything soaking in PB Blaster. This one was bad. I took a wire brush, clean up the threads. This one here will be the one we'll have to watch out for. But I'm letting that soak. So that bolt, the sway bar, two upper A-arms, and then that should be okay. What I will do is get a jack underneath the hub, and so I can slowly lower it down. Because once I disconnect those, it will drop. So I'll bring you back for that. And again, this is all I've used so far, other than the wrench for getting the wheel off. So I'm going to clean up a little bit. That was also another thing. I kept on leaving my tools around, so I'm going to make sure I keep everything neatly packed away. I'll bring you back when I got the bolts loose. Okay, so a couple things, corrections. First of all, the lower or upper tie rod, there it is, right there. That was a Torx 45 and a 21 millimeter nut. And I broke it loose with an impact just to get it free, and then used the wrench after that. The bottom, I left the wrenches in place there. I used a really large crescent to hold the one side. For this, I used a big breaker bar to get it loose, and I think that's a 24 millimeter. I took off the bracket. I'm going to take that right off as a matter of fact. Removed the bracket for the speed sensor. It's still in there, but that was just to give me some clearance so I could get that bolt. And that, both of these top ones are 18 millimeters. So just broke it quickly. Gotta be really careful with impact that you don't mangle threads, and just a couple little shots here and there just to break it. And again, lots of penetrating oil, get everything freed up. So 18 millimeters, wrench in the backside to keep the actual nut bolt from spinning, and just work the nut. So that side's loose, that side's loose. So now everything's loose and ready to go. So the next step I'm going to take is move some tools around here and clean up a bit. So the next step is going to be getting a jack underneath the lower control arm. And then I'm going to take off the strut first, and then start, and I'll take the two top bolts out. I'm going to take this one all the way out anyways. And I'm going to slowly lower down. I might just put this on slow-mo so you can see all that happening. I got to watch, because I take the top off. I could try doing both, but it's the axle that's in the way for the sway bar link. I got to sort of fish that in and out as it slowly goes down. So it can take time, and everything's okay. Okay, so like I said, I might just put this on time lapse and see, so you can see what happens there. Well, that was a bit of a surprise. So, broken in 3 spots. No wonder it was sagging a little bit in the rear. So anyways, you can see it's not too difficult. You probably noticed that I went up and down a few times. I'll try to move this light so it doesn't flicker as much. You know, I was just checking tension on bolts going up and down. If you noticed, I forgot as I went down to push the sway bar link out of the way. This one here, I thought at first I could get away with just leaving it in place, but there was still some tension in there. So this triangulates the whole rear suspension. So, you know, it's going to, as it droops beyond its normal range of motion, it's going to bind up. So all these have to come out. Now, putting it back together, well, actually, I'll get into that a little bit later. I'm going to clean things up, clean out the pocket, and just check over everything again. But as you see, not much effort there. Now, mind you, that's the broken spring, broken in 2 spots. Putting the new spring in. Oh, by the way, I was trying to tap out the bolt a little bit, but once I noticed it was still tight, that's when I moved up the floor jack up and down to find out. So, not great. You're looking at this, you can see corrosion. That's been broken for a while. Corrosion at the base. Corrosion at the top. See this pitting? I think I pointed out when I was in the car. There's another spot right there. So that's what starts this whole process. The whole spring weakens when the protective coating's gone and you get surface pitting. And this surprise, which was another one that's been broken for a while. So anyways, I'm going to clean everything up. You don't need to see that. Pretty boring. But yeah, I want to thank the viewer who suggested that you don't need to take off the brake line. I was checking it, all the lines, as I was going down. And yeah, there's no need to take the caliper off. It's not a lot of work on the caliper. It's really only 2 additional bolts. You know, two bolts versus all the clips, but then it's hanging in the way, and it's a bit of a pain. Okay, so I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to clean everything up, and I'm going to go get the pocket cleaned, check all these components, clean things up a bit, and I'll bring you back for that. Up the door to get a little better look at these 2 springs. So sourcing another one was a real challenge. So this is a 2013 ML350. I could not find any kind of information about rate and capacity, like height, capacity of these springs. You know, because I was frankly looking for an aftermarket, but without having information about, you know, what the spring rate, the amount of force per inch of compression, I was reluctant to try it. So I wound up getting, like I said, one brand new now, because corrosion is what kills these springs. So, by the way, I'm going to be coating this spring in rust preventative coating. So in my case, it's going to be fluid film. I'm not sponsored. I'm just going to coat the whole thing up and down. But like I said, before, when I go back in to prevent that. But I chose the factory springs, not out of desire, but necessity. Mercedes Benz basically says there's 4 springs in color coding. So this is what threw me off. You can just barely make that out. Little dab of white paint, little dab of green paint. Well, there's white paint, there's green, there's, I think, brown and pink. And it's related to towing capacity. So this car's got a trailer hitch and ride height. So I think the pink is like standard. And then you can get sport versus off trail, I think they call it, or I think it's trail, or I think it's off trail anyways. And that gives you a longer spring, so a higher ride height. Lower ride height versus higher ride height. And then there's spring rate, which gives you the diameter of the coils. That's what was throwing me off. Up at the top, they're about 16 millimeters. Down below, this is in imperial, so you can't tell, this is 0.71, which works out to 17 millimeters. You got to be really careful measuring this. This actually is about 7.2 or 7.15 versus 0.705 of an inch versus 0.715, so about 10 thousandths bigger diameter. That could be the difference between the coating. So anyways, I decided to go with, put a bunch of information around, couldn't get any information. I was just trying to get wire diameter, height. It was really sporadic. The green dot and the white dot threw me off. So I finally decided to go with what recommendations were put in by Mercedes Benz World, the MB World Forum, and they went with the white. So it looks good. Like I said, imagine this being a little bit more slender because of the powder coating. Height is the same. Well, pretty darn close. Can't tell because this is in so many darn pieces. But that's what I decided to do, is to know I got the same spring rate, go with a factory, a lot more money, of course. And I'm going to coat these so much with a rust-preventing oil. I do not want to do this. It's not a bad job, but I don't want to do a job twice. Anyhow, thought I'd bring you back and give that a little bit of an update. So I've got the bottom perch. Wasn't planning to bring back until I started assemble, but the whole spring, as you can see, is coated in oil now, going really nuts. It's a product's called fluid film. Again, not sponsored or anything, but want to coat this up really good. This is the bottom pocket. So the thing you have to watch out for that is the coil. The coils can be made in two different ways, but this is generally flatter on the bottom, but typically coils that are sitting in a flat pocket, the bottom is ground off here. So you can see these are indexed. This point is lower than that point. So you have to make sure you line up the bottom pocket. It just snaps into place. By the way, take a look at the corrosion down here on this spring. So this is likely would have failed as well eventually. And then over on the top, so I've cleaned it all up, painted a few areas on the top perch. I'm going to turn the light on. On the top, same thing. It's got a pocket right there for the coil. So you have to make sure you line those two back up. So I'm going to, I think, set the camera up and show the putting it back in, but I'm not probably going to go through too much detail here. Clear some of the tools out. I promised myself to keep the work area neater, but I guess that kind of went by the wayside. So this is probably the hardest part of this job, is getting the spring back in. So we're going to probably wind up having to pry down and up and get it into position. can see that I wasn't comfortable using the pressing that far down with the brake off. So yeah, so it looks like and maybe somebody else's comfort level might be better than mine, but didn't want to take a chance on it. So right now I'm checking that that's still indexed there, and that's still indexed there, which it is. So that's great. Now I just got to get it seated in the bottom pocket. Top is lined up perfectly. Bottom isn't quite square, but I think it'll come up when I start jacking. So that's what I'm going to try next now. So I'm just going to apply just a little bit of pressure, and what I'm trying to do is just get that bottom pocket. Let's see if you can see, but right there, it's not quite in, and that's just because it's on an angle. So I think what's going to happen is when I get it up high enough, it's going to pop in. I don't want to put too much more pressure on that. Give it a couple more taps. Again, I'm checking to make sure it's still in its pocket, and it is. I think I'll just try prying from this end. Also trying not to scratch the powder coat. It's a tough one to get in, so I think some of it's inevitable. It's real close. Top seated perfectly. Don't know if you can see that. Up here, right there in its pocket. The bottom though, not quite. There we go. What I probably should have done is made sure that pocket, its bottom perch was in properly. I mean, cleaned out. Gonna go down again and see if I can see if it's seated back in further. It feels good. It's just the one edge there then. Just basically hanging up by the lip of the pocket. No, really, I could just get in there with a whole lot of force and knock it, but I'm really trying to protect the spring from any kind of damage. I mean the powder coating of the spring. So it's rocked over. So that's the reason why that's happening. Now if this doesn't work out, I'm going to take it out and clean it and try again. No, it's not going in. So I'm just going to bring it back down and try to get that bottom pocket cleaned out a bit. I think the problem is that is the corrosion. I probably didn't clean it out as best I could. Yeah, it looks like, so again, that's good there. But the bottom, you can see, oh, there's something. Okay, I missed that. There's a notch right there. So this only goes in one way. So that's really important. It sits right there. I never noticed that the first time. So that's really important. So you can see right. Okay. So I didn't notice this, but there's a notch in the bottom cup and a notch in the lower A-arm. Again, got to really take your time. So that means that the spring, the top swivels, so the spring alignment has got to be correct on the bottom, and the top you can spin to whatever you want. So I'm going to mark, well, actually I can see it, right there, and I got a mark on the pocket, the bottom cup. I'm going to try this again then. So that means you're going to turn this to align, and then the whole assembly has got to be rotated. The whole assembly has got to be rotated so that pocket lines up forward. I don't know how much of this is going to show up. Camera's right in the way. Okay, so this will need to be rotated relative to that. Oh, that's a son of a gun. Yeah, I'm going to have to move you guys out of the way. Big lever. Get the jack out of the way first. Use the big lever to get this down far enough. And what I'm trying to do is get that pocket. Probably would have been better to mark all this in advance. Worst part about all this is putting all that lube in has made it very difficult to hold on to this. Okay, almost there. I think that's it. There. That's lined up. That looks pretty good in the bottom. Perfect. So let's try that again now. So hopefully you got that. So we have to, like I said, this is covered in grease, so it's pretty slippery. But there's a little mark on the front right there. You line that up with the bottom. And I'm going to try to jack up the lower arm again. Let's see if it pops into place this time. Okay. There it goes, popped in. Okay. Not quite, it's like it's not hard, just fiddly. And like I said, everything's coated. I'm going to squirt it again too, though. Like, going to really make sure this is okay. So, bottom's all set. Jack it up. Oops. I think I got to get a better spot. Okay, so I'm getting it closer. I'm just going to clean up. I want to make sure I get everything well secure. I'm going to probably reposition the jack to another area. But bottom mount is in place. Top mount, they're all indexed to one another. So you probably want to pay attention to that before you put it in to make sure the two are properly aligned. And I'm going to wash my hands and we'll start the reassembly. Okay, I just put another jack actually right on the bottom of the A-arm. And the reason I'm doing that is a nice flat. The other jack was twisting a little bit because of the angle. So this will put it right on the square of the flat of the lower A-arm. And then here, I'm almost there. Oh, I'm right on. Okay, so I'm gonna clean up again. I'm gonna clean up a little bit and re-lube everything, and I'll pick up in a couple minutes. Okay, just went in for a bit of a bite, but like I said, I'm just going to go through the assembly. I don't know. Yeah, it looks like it should be. There's a little bit of flickering, I'm afraid, because of the light I'm using, and I haven't figured out how to do this. But I got the bottom bolt in. As you can see, the bushings here are have a conical end, which matches up with the top of the knuckle. So I'm going to just slip the bolts in for now. So this one, this bolt in this little bracket, plastic bracket that holds on one of the lines, indexes off the knuckle. And then the bottom, let's see if I can move you around a little bit here. I probably can't see half the things I've been showing. And then the same bottom here. This one, again, there's the conical end. I've already coated this with a good liberal coating of rust protection. I'm gonna have to do this one-handed. See if I can get in there. What I'm doing is just pulling on the knuckle to try to. Oh, I'm gonna have to set that aside. Okay. So that's a no. I gotta get the strain off of that brake caliper as well. Yeah, so that doesn't work. The brake calipers definitely need to come off. Oh, again, one-handed. Oh, I'll have to put you down again. So that was, again, a two-handed job, unfortunately. So all I'm doing is running these bolts in loosely so that everything's held in place. Again, taking the strain off the caliper. Got my helper out here too. And run on these nuts for the lower strut here. Here's the nut for the front link, and the nut for the rear. Now, yep, I think that's everything. Okay. Okay, so all the nuts, bolts back on with the exception, oh darn, of, yeah, shoot. Okay, so I'm going to have to lower the, forgot the sway bar link in the back. I'm going to lower the suspension back, or down I should say, and see if I can get that started. Forgot all about that one. So that's a tricky one because you kind of have to angle it in. So I'm going to get rid of one of these jacks. Don't need them both anymore. Although I might just keep it for a bit of an extra safety. I got more jacks into this car than you can imagine. So that's basically right over here. Oop, that went too fast. Oh, that was really good. That landed right on. There. That was pretty lucky. There. And find the bolt for that. Back over here. And then after that, it's just a matter of the important thing about all this is that you don't want to torque down all these bolts until the suspension's at a normal ride height. So what I'm going to do is, I don't think I'll show that part, although I've been showing everything, is I'm going to lift up, jack up the lowering arm until I take the weight off the jack stands. In other words, all the weight's being carried on the suspension, and then I'm going to tighten down all the bolts. So again, if you don't do that, what happens is the bushing tightens down in an in a position with the suspension, say, lowered, and then when you tighten that in location, and then when suspension goes up, when it's starting to carry the weight of the car, it twists the rubber inside the bushing. So everything's got to be under its own weight, and then you tighten everything down. So I'm going to make sure everything is here is run down to at least loose. I'm going to jack up the lower A-arm until the weight is being carried by the jack, and then I'm going to tighten everything down. Okay, so I've got, I stopped tightening. Here, I'll move this around again. I stopped using this jack because as the suspension was going up, the bottom A-arm angle was changing, and I repositioned this jack back on. There's a little flat right below the strut. So it was sitting square on that, and now I've got no weight on the back of the car. So this is entirely the weight of the car on the suspension components. So now I can go and tighten all these things down. I'm just going to start with the A-arms first. No particular order, but you'll make sure all those links are properly and tightened down, and then I'll go after the rest. So now that the suspension is, all the weight is off the bottom, I'm going to tighten down the main links. So really, these two ones are the important ones. Like I said, all the weight is being carried by the jack. I'm going to get these bolts tightened. I got asked about what torque. I actually still haven't looked it up. I really just tightened them back down the way they were before. What it feels like to me, based on the when I took it off the other side, and when I did the first time, I just used breaker bars, but it felt like about like that. I'd say that's about 100 foot-pounds. So I'm going to aim for that. I plan after I get this snugged down again, I plan to go back and take a look at on the internet and see if I can find out what the exact setting is. But again, when I took it apart, it probably took about 100 foot-pounds of torque to get these bolts broken. I had a 3-foot breaker bar. This time I just used an impact. But when I did it before, I had a 3-foot breaker bar, and it didn't take a lot of force. With 3 foot, it may be at best only 50 pounds, so that might be 150 feet of torque. Anyways, regardless, I'm just going to give it a good mount. That felt like about 120 or so. I do have a torque wrench, by the way, in case you wonder. But let's get this started for now, and I'll go look it up afterwards. I'll put it in the chat. And then I think after that, the rest is pretty straightforward. Like I said, clip all these things back in. The speed sensor, the brake lines. Here, I'll move you around. So clip this panel back in, clip all the speed sensor lines. That's the parking brake line, speed sensor line. Snap this trough back into position. Clip on the brake line back into the little clips here. I got to tighten the caliper back on. Got to do the sway bar link, and I got to do the lower strut. So I won't bother you with those little details. Like I said, yeah, the most important thing is just to stop at the end. Take a second, make sure everything's tight, go through all the bolts, make sure you haven't missed anything. Okay, I'm going to put on the wheel speed indicator. Again, just took that off so it wouldn't be in the way or get damaged from tightening take the one bolt off. Okay, I'm going to snap in this little plastic tray. Okay, I'm going to snap in Okay, well, it looks like it's got to go that in first, so you can clip this underneath, then snap that in. That goes in. There's a little clip for this wire right there. You're probably not going to see any of this. Okay, that's that. And not a lot to that. This wire for the brake just snaps in there. That snaps in there. This is already in place. I'm going to do a double check when I get everything in there. And then now the brake hydraulic lines. That snaps in there. And there's one more back there which you won't see. So I'll just clip that in. Okay, so I moved over to the passenger side. Now, as I said, that spring's fine. That's the one that I had replaced. But now I got one brand new spring on. I can't keep the other spring on. They need to be replaced because I'm putting a new one in. Springs sag a fair bit at the beginning, and then they settle out. So I would have an uneven load in the back of the car. So this other one breaking and not be able to find exactly what I wanted is forcing me to replace both as a pair. So I moved ahead a little bit and just got up. And I'm going to show you the differences. Let's see if I can turn. My batteries are almost dead here. So all the bolts are undone, clips are undone, calipers about ready to come off, and this is where the differences begin. So the passenger side has two differences. One is it's got a brake wear sensor. It's in the caliper. So this is what I broke last time. So the pads will stay on the rotor in the in this mount right here, and the caliper will come out empty. I'm going to set that aside. As I said, I tried doing what the other person said he could do, and maybe it was a different car, a slightly different model, I don't know, but that put too much force on the brake line. So I loosened everything off just to be safe, got this loose. I'm going to be very carefully pulling this off and so making sure this doesn't get caught. Then I'll set the caliper out of the way so there's no tension on it. So that's the one extra wire here. And I'll unclip all these things as well, just to be safe as well. But the other difference, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but right back behind the spring is the load sensing, I guess a potentiometer. So if you've got, your trailering, it's going to see the squat in the back and it's going to proportion the brakes. So I got to remove that as well, just another little 10mm bolt. So everything else is ready to go. Oh yeah, this, because of this extra wire, has an extra clip here that's a little bit different than the rest. So again, just carefully take time. Like I said, it's a little bit colder weather now, but this is when you start breaking clips. So take your time, get him. I got a little mirror, look all around to make sure that, especially these little ones here, that you can see the little tab, know what to squeeze to close them all off. So I said, I'm all ready to go. I'm going to move the caliper out of the way. I'm not going to film as much details. I think I'm just going to point out stuff. You can see this is the replacement spring. Nothing wrong with it. Not even any more corroded than when I put it in. I painted it up and I coated it with a whole lot of rust preventing oil there as well. This side actually looks pretty good overall compared to the other side. But I'm not going to repeat everything here. That coil's got to come out. They got to be a match pair going back in, because I have one brand new one, so I have to have two brand new ones. So I'll bring you back once I've got the spring out. This might be a little bit different because this spring isn't broken. Then I probably have to extend it more. So I'm expecting I'll have to use my pry bars a little bit more to get this a little bit further down. And I guess that's about it. So I'll bring you back in a couple of minutes. Okay, so got everything. I just grabbed the box to take the strain off the brake line. And I've got that load sensor on the back. I found out, by the way, when I was doing this one, a little bit more better leverage. So I took brake clean and I cleaned the surface of the other side before I put it back together. But you can get a bit more leverage here to pry the spring out. Push that down. You can see that the weight's right off it now. So that's all you need to do. Oh, looks like this one's broken too. Look at that. Isn't that something? I don't know if you can see that. Let me tilt you up a bit. It's broken. This spring is broken right at the top, I think. Hard to tell. Let me get it out of there and we'll find out. Yep, it's broken as well. Isn't that something? There we go. That's amazing. So that was a used spring that I got, and that's it. This is the I'm not seeing what you're seeing. So anyways, the lower mounts, I'm going to clean that up a little bit. But there, another one broken. Isn't that something? And again, that's been broken for a while. You can see the rust on there. This seems to be pretty common. So just for information, so this one, again, with the white stripe, which I think is the trailer package. And like I said, I can't tell if it's the Sport or the off-trail. But it's got a smaller diameter, roughly around 16 millimeter, I think 0.6 or something diameter at the top end. And then it goes to about 17 millimeter or 0.7 0.7 of an inch down. So they seem to crack. Both of these now have been cracked at the top where the diameter goes down. So if you look at it, you can notice this diameter is actually smaller than this diameter. So that seems to be a weak point in them. Maybe an aftermarket would have been better. Again, don't know about the load range, but again, I suspect the issue on these, if you can see, let me see if it was again corroded, the plating. So in this case, it's the rubber coating sits there, but this one here, it actually looks like it's been overloaded. See, it's torsional, so I think that's an overload. That's not great. That was, again, a replacement of the last time, so that didn't last very long. We got terrible roads here. I'm sure that makes things worse, but well, this is a little ridiculous. So I'm going to clean this up, getting everything went together real smooth. Again, I really think you need to take the caliper off. That puts a fair bit of strain on the line, because you have to push down pretty far to get that lower A-arm. But doing that, having the one pry bar here, and it didn't take much force. I'm only putting on like 10 pounds, 20 pounds tops. Getting that down that low made it so much easier to get the spring on this one, literally. And I thought this would be more of a problem. It was broken, it was still less broken than the other side. So I'm going to clean this all up, and I'll bring you back when I start reassembling. Okay, it's getting late now, so I'm just going to go through the last little bit here. So, turn the light on for you. So, this one, no problem whatsoever. I had a little bit of difficulty getting the bottom mount back in, so I jacked up a little bit, and it was just hung up on the lip. So what I did was I just got a 2x4 and ever so lightly just put some pressure on it, just a little bit from the bottom up, put the jack underneath and lift it a little bit, and then I just tapped the spring in ever so lightly, like just a light tap, and it popped right in. So that got it all set up. Again, it's not on the jack stands now. The hydraulic jack is carrying the weight, and I got all the bolts torqued back up to, like I said, where they were before. I'll put the torque specifications in the comment section. All the bolts torqued up at ride height. I put the, let's see if you can see down in here. I put the wheel speed sensor back in. All this has been snapped back into place. And all that's left on this side, if I can do this one-handed, is to put the caliper back on and then clip these pieces in here. I'm going to try to set the camera. Sorry for the squeaks, it's getting kind of congested here. I'll set the camera here. And all I have to do is guide the wear sensor into in through the caliper. This is just the box from the spring that I was using as a rest for it. And again, I don't think you can actually do this without taking the caliper off. A little bit of wiggling. I didn't bother putting the trying to retract the piston of the caliper. Just actually did the brakes on this a couple of weeks ago, I think it was. Same problem as I had when I did my Jetta, one of my other videos. It's corrosion. From sitting, the caliper gets all rusted up, and it starts wearing very quickly because it's basically grinding off the rust. So it's got really bad. and hadn't really noticed. I checked it, but it looked pretty good on the outside. And then I checked the inside and noticed that fair bit of corrosion on the inside. But I was able to get the calipers all retracted back in and replace them. What I found was one of the pads is actually came right off the backing, so it was near the end, but it was really and there wasn't really that much meat left on the pad. Get this out of the way. But no real problems getting that done. I didn't bother filming that. There's a boatload of people that do videos on changing brakes out. So that's all done, and then this just clips back into this sensor right here, or connector. There isn't a front and the back on this one. There, that's in. Now, so I think that's the last of the bolts. I'm going to go around and double check again. And then now, it's just a matter of all these clips again. So this one's pretty straightforward. Snaps back in there. That one goes back in there. And I didn't disconnect the emergency brake. This snaps into this little a hose or wire guide, and then down over here I just got to put these back in these little clips, and they just snap back in. These are the ones you have to be fairly careful with to make sure you don't break them. Okay, these clips are two-handed things. There's two little tabs that fit in the top and the bottom. So it wasn't working for me because it didn't have the bottom one first. It was it had closed by itself, and the little rubber grommet that goes into it was behind, so I was putting too much tension this side. So that's all done now. Everything here is all tightened up, all back in their spots, and that's basically it. So the only thing left for this is put the wheels back on and see how it all rides. So we'll probably finish the video off with some comments about the ride height and ride quality. I suspect I won't even notice the difference though. Anyways, I'll bring you back when that's done. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. That was a long video. I said I would say a little bit about the ride quality, the ride height afterwards. So it looks like, you know, the car was, you could see, visibly drooping in the back. And that's kind of what I suspected. There was a bit of a problem there. So it's raised the back end up about 2 inches. So basically doubled the gap between the tire and the wheel arch. So I'll put a picture up for the before after, but I really can't notice a difference in ride quality. Everything seems exactly the same as you would expect. I was expecting frankly a bit of a softer ride because the top of the coil is a small diameter, so it's probably progressive, but I really can't tell the difference. No real surprise. No rattles, no squeaks, nothing. Everything's working really well. So I hope you found this video useful. It's a really long one. I'm gonna put it into a couple Mercedes Benz forums for information, and if you got comments, you know, put them in there. And if you like more content like that, if you like that kind of detail, then let me know, and if you can, hit the subscribe button. Thanks.